It was 10 a.m. on a blazing morning in Scottsdale, Arizona. The kind of morning where the heat seemed to wrap around your skin like a second layer, the sunlight glinting off glass towers and baking every inch of the desert city. The air inside the Sterling Corporate Plaza was cooler, scented with mahogany polish and faint traces of expensive cologne. Vanessa Cole stood in the vast marble lobby, her heels clicking with purpose against the polished floor. Her dark eyes scanned the space, composed and unreadable, though her stomach churned with a tightly wound mix of nerves and resolve. She had prepared for this moment. Every word, every pause, every possible question she'd studied it all. She had earned her place here. But as the minutes began to slip by like sand through fingers, the silence in the lobby grew heavier. Her posture remained confident, but inside, that silence began to feel like a dismissal. She was the only one still waiting. She watched white men in tailored suits stride through the lobby, ushered in with handshakes and laughter, the receptionist greeting them with warm smiles and easy nods. Meanwhile, Vanessa Black, poised, the only woman of color in the room, was overlooked, invisible. The gum-snapping receptionist didn't even glance in her direction. Vanessa stayed calm. At first. But now, after an hour, her patience was starting to fray. She didn't come here to be tolerated. She came because she was qualified, because she had built something worth noticing. But the longer she sat untouched by any courtesy or acknowledgement, the more the tight coil of something deeper, something old and familiar wrapped itself around her chest. It wasn't just about a late meeting anymore. It was about being erased. She knew this kind of dismissal. She'd felt it her entire life in college lectures, in job interviews, in boardrooms where people assumed she was the assistant, not the strategist. It was subtle but sharp, an unspoken belief that she didn't belong, that her presence was temporary, tolerated, conditional. Vanessa watched the clock above the front desk tick past the 90-minute mark. Her pencil skirt, once comfortable, now felt restrictive. Her blouse clung to her back from the mix of nerves and Arizona heat. The humming of the air conditioner and the distant tapping of keyboards only made the silence around her louder. She tapped her fingers softly on her leather-bound portfolio. It contained the work she had spent months preparing, her proposal for the company's next big initiative, complete with analytics, strategy, and innovation. She had done more than was expected. She always had. Yet here she was, again, sitting alone, waiting, watching. Another 20 minutes passed. Two more men walked in in a navy suit with a Bluetooth in his ear, the other younger, laughing into his phone. Both were greeted instantly, the receptionist practically leaping to help them. She didn't even glance at Vanessa. Enough. Vanessa rose to her feet, her movements sharp and deliberate, and walked to the front desk. "Excuse me," she said, her voice steady. "Can you check if Mr. Langston is available now? I've been waiting quite a while." The receptionist looked up as if startled, her expression dull and unimpressed. "He's on the phone. He'll be right with you," she said flatly, before turning back to her screen. Vanessa nodded tightly and walked back to her seat, fists clenched around her portfolio. She wanted to walk out. Every part of her told her to stand up and never look back. But she couldn't. She was too close. This meeting wasn't just a foot in the door, it was the door. One that had taken years of fighting to even find, let alone reach. 15 more minutes ticked by. Then the elevator doors opened with a chime, and the energy in the room shifted. A group of sharply dressed executives walked out, laughing among themselves. At the center of them was Adrian Langston himself, the man she'd been waiting to meet for over 2 hours. His tie perfectly knotted, his smile effortless. He carried the confidence of a man who had never had to wait for anything. The receptionist shot up, practically beaming. "Mr. Langston, coffee? Water?" she chirped, already motioning for the others to follow her down the corridor. Vanessa stared. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her face didn't move. Adrian didn't even glance at her as he passed. The man who'd left her to sit in silence, while entertaining others who looked nothing like her, who saw nothing of her. The silence she had tried to keep swallowed her now. She rose again. This time, her steps weren't tentative. They echoed with intent. She approached the front desk and spoke clearly. "Is Mr. Langston still too busy for the meeting he's scheduled with me?" The receptionist froze. Her expression faltered, the corners of her mouth twitching as she tried to recover. "He's just wrapping up a conversation. I've been here for over 2 hours," Vanessa said, "and not once has anyone bothered to let me know what was going on." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Several heads turned. The room, once filled with quiet background noise, went still. Adrian finally turned around. His face flushed. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry," he said, hurrying toward her. "There's a mix-up. I didn't realize." "You didn't realize I was still here?" she said. Her voice calm, deliberate. "You walked in, and I was right there. You looked straight through me. I apologize." "No, don't apologize," Vanessa said. "Not to me. Apologize to every person who's ever been made to feel invisible in this building. Because I'm not the first. But I promise, I'll make sure I'm one of the last." The silence thickened. The receptionist avoided eye contact. The executives stopped mid-stride. From the far side of the lobby, a woman with gray streaks in her black curls stepped forward. Jordan Whitaker, Senior Director of Strategic Initiatives, and one of the few women of color in leadership. Next to her was Michael Chun, the company's COO. "Vanessa Cole," Jordan said, her voice cutting cleanly through the stillness. "I was wondering when I'd finally meet you in person." Vanessa turned toward her, surprised but steady. "We've been reviewing your proposal," Jordan continued. "And frankly, it's the most visionary strategy we've seen in years. We've been discussing how to bring you into our leadership development track. We didn't know you were here today." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "I'd be happy to talk further about that." Jordan smiled. "Let's go do that now." Vanessa turned her back on Adrian, who stood frozen in place. Jordan and Michael walked beside her to the elevator, their voices low, professional, but full of something rare, respect. As the elevator doors closed behind them, Vanessa allowed herself the smallest breath of peace. A quiet, dignified inhale. For the first time that morning, her muscles loosened. Later that week, the offer came in. Not just for a position, no, it was bigger. A new department. A leadership role where she could not only thrive, but shape the system itself. The very system that had, for too long, silenced people like her. Adrian Langston's tenure didn't survive the quarter. Word spread fast. Vanessa hadn't raised her voice, hadn't demanded his job. She didn't have to. His failure to see her had written his downfall. Vanessa didn't celebrate his fall. She didn't have time for that. Instead, she focused on the Futurian mentoring others, on creating space for people who had waited long enough. For the ones who wouldn't have to knock quite as hard on the doors she used to pound on. This wasn't a revenge story. This was about resilience, dignity, patience refined into power. Vanessa never needed anyone to validate her worth. She'd always known it, but the world needed reminding. And now, when she walked into rooms, there was no question. She belonged. Always had. Always would.